the mission to keep as many men on as many guns for as long as possible. We call him Doc. Welcome to Combat Vet Vision. And now your host, Aaron Chief Siebert.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Hey, welcome to Combat Vet Vision. This is Aaron Siebert, lucky to be alive after being hit with a mortar round. I know I talk about it every week, but this is a show where I get to talk about my stuff, my history, other people's history. Other guys come on my show, whether it's sponsors, supporters, volunteers, other combat vets that tell their opinions, their issues, their things that they got going on. And, this just gives me a platform to do that. This week's show, I wanted to have Michael Amato on, but he wasn't able to do it on a Monday, so he wanted to follow up on some things. But hey, we're going to break into this. Going to talk about PTSD, physical wounds, and what you're doing about it, because it's one of those topics that have been super important to me for a long time, and it's something that I do talk about. But I wanted to kind of get into some more details on that, and just give a kind of a perspective. And when I talk about it, it's like, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been involved with, after being hit with a mortar round, all these different things as a corpsman. I'm used to taking care of Marines. I'm used to taking care of our corpsmen. I'm used to, dealing with things that come my way. Marines come, they have these problems. I got to document it down. I got to write down this whole SOP note and kind of break it down, and then go to the doctor with what I think it is, and then talk to the Marine. So this this communication that has to take place requires a lot of different things. When we get down to it, it's like trust. It's like all these things, and normally, Marines are coming because they have an actual problem, that they know that there's a problem. They broke their leg, something crazy had happened. They just were out in PT. They did some other things. They hurt some joints, whatever it might be. It's a legitimate thing that they can tangibly feel, see, and they have to deal with it. They have to go out and do some more stuff, and maybe they're physically not able to do that. And now we get into the PTSD side of things, which nobody really wants to admit that they have PTSD, but everybody is claiming it. A lot of people are claiming it, whether it's whatever it is that they're claiming it. It's the VA has a system hooked up to where, if you claim something, you get paid for it. And if you're not being treated for it properly, you can lose some of that pay. There's all these tricky things that you got to manage when it comes to this stuff. And people, just kind of write it off like, hey, I have to go through these processes and the VA is a problem. But, sometimes we ourselves are the problem, and or you're the solution. Are you the problem or are you the solution? And I ask this about everything. And some of us are self-medicating. They're doing different things that may be a detriment to what they're really wanting to kind of solve. And I say this with a lot of like history of, if alcohol was the cure, there wouldn't be any problem with alcohol. If smoking pot was the cure, there wouldn't be any problem with smoking pot. But what's your dose? What is your dose? And when it comes to all these things, or what is your dose with your medications that you're given, whether it's pain meds or whatever. And I was given pain meds when I got blown up. I took them for 5 days, and I was like, no, I can't do it. And so I started taking Motrin or Naprosyn, and now I take Naprosyn. That's really the only thing I really want to take. I spend the rest of my time trying to do things that are more better for me. Physical therapy, constantly trying to find some physical therapy, whether that's yoga, the underwater treadmill that I used to be able to partake in. But those are legitimate solutions to problems. Is drugs and alcohol a legitimate solution to some problems? To the minimum dose necessary for the effect, probably. When it comes to alcohol, no good thing has happened after 2 a.m. in the morning with alcohol. And drugs the same way. Drugs can really, really hinder. And I'm not here to judge anybody. I'm just here to do a check. And I mean this because we got 22 people dying a day. The claims that the VA is putting these numbers out. That's a huge, huge number. And it's a huge number when a lot of these things could probably be resolved if you're involved in your care. And you go to the doctor and you say, hey, I got all these issues. Well, what are you doing about it? I'm going to warrior groups. I'm doing physical therapy. I'm doing these things that are positively helping my course of action. And does that mean that you need help? Because when you ask for help, it's a sign of weakness. It's a sign of, oh, somebody's going to judge me. Somebody's going to do this, and that. And that probably is part of it. But you need to trust in yourself that maybe the path you're going down might not be the right one and might have caused you many, many problems. And and instead of you making the call for help, you're forcing your parents to make that call. You're forcing your loved ones to make that call. And people are like, hey, can so and so, can I reach out to somebody and give them some helping support? And I do that very often. And I say, hey, here's what I got. I got this podcast. This podcast kind of puts out a lot of different, messages, however they might look, however they may be bottled up. But there's a lot of really cool things that come on here, and even perspectives that I'm not always privy to until they get on my show, and I get those aha moments. I even get a lot out of coming to my own show and just being involved with somebody else's perspective, because I don't always need to say, hey, my perspective's the right one. It's not always the right one. And I'm willing to be open enough to realize that. And sometimes maybe I need to change course on something, and maybe I need to do something a little bit better. But so often we treat ourselves like this mechanical device that, hey, it's not broken. Everything I'm doing in my life is okay. I know people are worried about me because I did this, this, and this. Um, but when you get away from the camaraderie and the support and the important things in life, and you start taking a spiral out of control because something happened to you, and now you're dealing with it in such a negative way that you drunk yourself to oblivion, and now you got yourself into an accident and a DUI, and you just keep spiraling down this course when you had this great career lined out, when you had all these things kind of lined out. Or, I'm giving you actual situations, actual things that I am aware of. Or you're on a course where um, you're going to go through some issues. You need to get a divorce, whatever that might be, and you make you kind of separate yourself from all the things that were supportive in the past. You're no longer going to warrior groups. You're no longer taking care of yourself. You're no longer doing this, and you hash out a plan to end your wife's life, and that goes to legal. She's got to pretend dead for 2 days. Now you're sitting in jail wondering what's going on, and this could be anybody dealing with that. And now you're wondering what went wrong. What why did you take such an extreme measure to think that you were going to be okay with this, creating chaos? And I get into that a lot. And so you lose your battle buddies, and your battle buddy is like the number one principle for keeping everything squared away, because your battle buddy is there, hopefully making a difference in your life. You can call that person at any given time. But when you don't hear from your battle buddy for a while, you might need to check in. And a lot of times now, a lot of my guys that I deal with and help, and we have this camaraderie group. We check in with each other, like, hey, did you hear from so and so for a while? And sometimes I haven't, and I make a call and try to reconnect with that person. And sometimes guys are doing so good that I kind of forget to call some of these guys, or my timing just doesn't work out, but I still want to make that effort, because you never know if somebody's sliding to the left or sliding to the right. But it's really cool to see when they slide to a good point in their life and they're running on cruise control on that. So there's all these different things, right? We talked about, physical activity, and, what does that do for you? The endorphins, this, and that. And sometimes I'm always in a conundrum. Do I do enough physical activity to get all this effect? But my ankle's always hurting from the shrapnel that's in it, and I have a hernia, so my abdomen's always having problems. And then do I want to get that fixed? And do I want to deal with this, and that? And so I'm always struggling with some other issues. Um, but I also want to do physical activity, but I can't necessarily run. I have to modify my workouts. I have to do this and that, but I still want to be involved in that. And when you talk about drugs, I get down to it is like, what is the minimum amount dose necessary to get the effect? And how long have you been on these things? And some of these drugs, are eventually going to kill you. They're going to eventually push you into directions of something that's far worse or far better for you in the immediate effect. But in the long term, it's just breaking you down. And it gets into that self-medication, that whole, hey, I'm going to go do this. But self-medication can be a lot of good things too. When you talk about self-medication, everybody always assumes that it's drugs, alcohol, this, and that. But self-medication is that physical activity. It's mind wellness. Are you doing something to be involved in going to some of the classes that the VA has? And just to get into that a little bit, like I said, the VA is there as a control mechanism to steer you in a direction where, if you want drugs, you're going to get them. If you want treatment, you possibly can get it. And sometimes you're going to have to wait a long time for that treatment, but in the long run, it could be better, and it could end up turning out worse. Um, but but the VA is also caught between that piece that says, hey, the higher the higher your rating, you get more money, but that means you got all these issues that you got to attend with. Are you going to the VA for all these appointments that you needed, or are you skipping them out? Um, and when you talk about mind wellness, when you talk about PTSD and all the things that has to offer, I went to a mind wellness class, and it was a good class. Now, I will say the VA calls these groups, but they can't discriminate against PTSD. And what I mean by that is, my PTSD groups are for combat vets. These are normally about 90% of my combat vets are combat action holders too. So they actually saw combat. Combat vets are anybody who served in a combat zone under the PTSD Foundation of America and helping these guys out. It's a broad spectrum. Now, 95 or 90% of my combat vets are combat action holders. So they actually seen combat. So when you talk about that's is that a discrimination because we only take care of combat vets? Yeah, but it's like-minded individuals that want to be together, to talk about things together, to move forward together, and not embellish each other's stories. And going to the VA and getting some of this treatment on some of these classes that I went, and I'll tell you, mind wellness, Montrum, uh, and there's a couple other ones that I can't remember right off the top of my mind, but they were really good classes. So you go there. It's supposed to be this group, but you're not really allowed to share because you don't want to trigger anybody else's PTSD. And you might be in there with other people that have PTSD from childhood to military sexual trauma or whatever. But these were big groups at first, groups of like 24 people in there. And as the time went by, less and less people were going. They wanted to get that initial, hey, I'm checking, the check is in the box, I'm good to go, I checked into this thing, but I'm not going to go this week. Maybe I'll go next week. So there's 12 empty seats in there after a while, which triggered my PTSD because I was like, hey, if everybody's got PTSD, why are they not doing something about it? And it's just one of those things because this is my life. This is what I do. This is how I want to kind of do that. It's not like I'm judging, but I'm also like, hey, if everyone has PTSD, why does no one call me? My number's out there. I throw it out there all the time. Most of the calls I get are from somebody who needs to get somebody else help. It's not from the individuals. So it's not like I need to give anybody help, but I have the camaraderie. I have a lot of other resources that can kind of steer guys and gals in the right direction on different things. And sometimes it's hard to really get a perspective for that. So are you moving forward or backwards? These are legitimate questions that you got to ask yourself. And I ask myself that all the time. Am I moving forward or backwards? And my involvement in myself and my investment in myself needs to be, I need to really look at when people are questioning me about how I might love versus tolerate versus um, dramatically deal with the subject matter in a overly dramatic way or blow things out of proportion sometimes. I need to reel myself in and actually be better at viewing myself and kind of not being sarcastic or um, treating things outside of love. Um, it's just one of those things that I have to constantly work out. And it's these things are all important. And you got to ask yourself all the time, am I part of the problem or am I part of the solution? And I say this to kind of help everybody out with their PTSD, including society. Society, please ask yourself this question. Are you part of the problem or part of the solution? Um, you think you might be part of the solution if you're driving 75 miles an hour in the fast lane and somebody wants to pass you, but you're holding the speed limit. You're the speed limit regulator. Meanwhile, you got lane predators coming up on the right side of you, and wondering what the heck are you doing? Because slower traffic should move to the left, and it never has said doing the speed limit, stay in the lane to the left. No, it says slower traffic, move to the right. So get out of the way. But everybody has this belief, hey, I'm just regulating the traffic. I'm doing this. Or if you're not using your turn signal, or this communication that I talk about is really important. This trust is really important. These things that so often we let slide because we're not taking care of ourselves and we're not being involved in our lives. So it's one of these things that kind of I wanted to bring up because it's been on my mind, because so often I get parents calling me, or situational other things, other people calling me that are worried about some combat vet that's dealing with something, or they're in jail at this time and they got to go through this process now. And you know, I'm worried maybe I didn't reach out enough. But these are the guilt feelings that we put on ourselves. But in all reality, if we're available, it's important to be available. And a lot of times when I see something that looks out of place, I'll make the effort to reach out and say something and be like, hey, let's talk about it. And really, that's what it's all about, is let's talk about it. You don't have to need help to talk to me. You don't have to need help to listen to this podcast. You don't have to need help for anything. But the camaraderie is awesome. The stories are awesome. The people are awesome. And there's some just really important lessons in life that kind of come out of these. So, that's all I got this week. And I really just want to say thanks a lot for listening to my show. This is sitchradio.com puts this on. They manage my show. They do my show. Brian Colburn pushed me into this direction. I got Joey managing all the buttons and everything that's cool with that. But yeah, this is Combat Vet Vision. I'm Aaron Siebert, retired Navy chief, lucky to be alive after being hit with a mortar round April of 2006. 3 deployments to Iraq. I'm on life number 2. And until next time, strength and honor. Out.